All right, guys. So welcome. Hope you're hearing me. Cyrus, are you hearing me? Dr. Singway, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Just okay. You seem to be okay. All right, that's fine. I guess you're not. Yeah. Um. All right, guys. Welcome. I hope you're hearing me. And to our viewers, listeners, welcome to Election Central. I have with me, as you can see on the screen, um, Dr. Masangi Pangbala Sengbe. He's an education as well as a mental health practitioner. He's our guest today. Hopefully, we get one or two more guests coming. But we have Councilor Cyrus. Cyrus is still in Monrovia.
Yes, I am still. Can you hear me?
All right,
Also, can you
Cyrus seems
can
to
you
be some technical stuff. But
also I can hear you. Can you hear me?
you weren't coming through. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Well, I can hear
Uh,
you. You
yeah,
too clear.
yeah. You came in
Can you
breaking,
hear
but
me,
that's
brother?
yes, it's better now. It's better.
Okay, I'm
I
here.
hear, I hear you clear, Sigre.
It's much better.
Somewhere, how you doing, my man? Been what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, Dr. Sengbe, welcome to Election Central. We meet here every 2:30 every Sunday after.
Some kind of background noise there, bro.
If Singmei is not speaking, you need to mute his mic because he's driving. So we're getting the background noise. Yeah, good. Now that's better. I see that Apostle is also a little bit frozen. So we just want to pick up, until he returns. So again, we want to welcome our dear brother Dr. Masagi Pambala Singwe to this show. Uh, we want to welcome Mr. Michael Rennie as well, who is a regular uh, or panelist. The Apostle is back. Apostle was just trying to welcome the brother, but we're getting some feedback. I don't know from whom. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
I can hear that myself.
Okay.
it might be from Cyrus. Might be from Cyrus.
Sarah's microphone is muted, so maybe it's not coming from me.
Okay,
Might be.
that's gone. No,
Okay, so Apostle, if you're on your mic, then you just go ahead and continue to introduce the show, so we can get started.
yeah. So yeah, okay. Yeah. Welcome everybody to Election Central. Welcome, Michael. I know you were out of the country, so you're back in the states. Uh, uh, yeah. So on to this show, Election Central. Basically, the topic is addressing the challenges facing Liberia, how the new administration coming in. We want to talk about the different challenges that currently exist, whether they have the challenges and whether they have the capacity to address those challenges, as well as the political will. Given all of the alliances that were formed around the election time, can they now muster the political will to address those challenges that the country faces? The other thing is, will they have the resources to do that? We all know that the country economically is in dire straits, and one of so will they be able to attract international investment right away? With it, to address those challenges. And of course, President Weah recently, following his concession speech, did say that he doesn't want himself and any of his officials to be audited because he believes that would be a witch hunt. He did not audit the previous administration, that is the Sirleaf government that he inherited from. So therefore, his government should not be audited, and a number of other things. We also saw that he appointed a transition team. The president appointed his transition team. We can look at all of those things and see whether those challenges facing the country. Basically, that's our conversation. One of the reasons I also reached out to Dr. Sengbe is to bring the mental health perspective to these challenges facing the country. There's reports of quote unquote zogos around the country. How do we deal with that problem, which is really has been neglected over a period of time? So yeah, so that's the conversation today, gentlemen. Welcome, Dr. Sengbe. If you are able to, please go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alfonso. Thank you to you and your team, and to everybody who is listening. My name is Masangi Bisamata Lubai Kambala Sembe. I am from Kambala and Basavolo, Lofa County. Um, I'm based in the United States right now as a psychotherapist. I both certified, currently practice in Minnesota. I've been privileged to work in the public space in multiple roles. And I'm also very proud to say that I'm a college faculty, uh, and I've been a faculty at a couple of universities in the United States, and college faculty also in Liberia at the graduate schools at Cotton University College and at the University of Liberia, my alma mater. Um, the most significant of everything is, besides being a Christian, and avoid Liberian lover, and I owe nobody an apology to love Liberia beyond and above any individual. So again, I'm Bangwala Semwe.
I think Alfonso.
Yeah, it looks like the process is having some issues, but let's just continue. Pambala, we want to welcome you again, and we look forward to this discussion. Uh, Alfonso tried to say we're we're basically trying to focus on next steps, after elections in Liberia. What are the next steps, specifically for the incoming administration? What are the issues that confront them, and what are those issues they need to tackle right away, and what are those issues they need to look at in the future? How is the public going to respond to that? We just need to provide some analysis, some expectation, professional expectation, and provide some input into what is going to be good for an effective governance system. Uh, I think first I would want to say that the issue of good governance is is high on the list of what the government is expected to do now that elections are over. Uh, there is or there are two teams, a transitional team. First of all, what goes into this transitional period? What do we expect? What are these two teams, the joint presidential transitional team? What are they supposed to be working towards? How do they go about these things? I think we can discuss that further, and then we'll just gradually go into, you know, further discussion. What are the expectations of the transitional team? What the expectation of the incoming administration, and what the expectations are for the outgoing administration in terms of making the transition work. So what would be considered a viable transition period? So anybody can take that from there. maybe same way you want to come in, you also had an experience in government as well.
I can start off by saying that, and being on the technical side of the last transition of multiple transition teams, especially in 2011 from the Ministry of Finance. And uh, in this case, wherein there is power being transferred onto a different set of hands, the lots of things are expected of the transitional teams. Within this period of about 60 days, this is where the incoming administration will take time to understand where the outgoing administration stands in terms of the governance process. It is also anticipated that in most instances, the individuals who are on the transitional team, even though they do not represent the individuals that were served in the governance process, but those individuals will begin to lay down the groundwork as to how they intend to start government when the new administration is formed in January in the management of the state. The transitional team, especially the incoming transitional team members, are also broken down like the outgoing administration into thematic areas. So, for instance, if we're talking about the area of integrated institutions, an individual on the transitional team is anticipated to be somebody from the integrated institution. And at the moment, just by looking at the list, just perusing it, I see Mr. John Molu, for instance. If his role is to be on the institutions, will be a set of individuals that work within a subcommittee to understand the integrity institutional component of things. So, like it goes to finance, it goes to education, it goes to health. And I see individuals that were named on the organization, on the transitional team that cover all of these areas. So, in a nutshell, the individual members of the transitional team are anticipated to present a clearer picture to the incoming president because on that January afternoon, after the president shall have been sworn in, it is anticipated that he should understand, in this case, that he should understand how to start managing the state. So that is not here what is anticipated of the transitional team coming in. For the outgoing transitional team, it is anticipated also that that particular team, that particular set of individuals on that side, need to provide to the incoming transitional team the things that they have done. And then they need to also be like a provider of support in that process. So it's supposed to be a win-win situation where in one group is leaving and telling the other group that is coming in, hey, this is where we are. And then that group that's coming in will say, okay, we'll take it from here and run with it.
Okay. Thank you for that. We can further expand on that. Michael, you want to come in? Michael, do you want to come in?
Well, yeah, uh, I am very impressed with the transitional team that the president-elect appointed. The list of names on there seems very inclusive, and it seems like we're heading to a good start so far with the acceptance of the election results by the incumbent president. And then the corporation working together.
I don't want to go too far ahead and talk about some of the other agenda items we have, but I would say I'm impressed with the transitional team, and I think they're capable of, and hopefully they do work together, as Dr. Pamba has said, that they do work together and information is shared and they're supported so that when they take over, things can move smoothly.
Yeah. So when you have a young presidential team, uh, like stated too by Dr. Singh, we expect that those two teams are going to collaborate and they're going to be clear passage in terms of evaluation, uh, uh, in terms of getting itinerary of stuff of what the government has, what each agency has, what each agency is leaving, what the different projects, those that have been accomplished, those that are ongoing, where's the government supposed to take up from. So those things are actually supposed to provide a learning path for the incoming administration so that right after inauguration, the president will be able to resume, governance immediately. Will be aware of the existing issues, will be aware of the problem, will be aware of areas that need immediate tackle. The issues are supposed to be laid out to the president before he's inaugurated. And so that's what the team is supposed to provide. Okay, so we seem to be clear with the transitional thing, and we're happy about that. We hope that there will not be hitches and that there can be a cooperation. Like we're hearing that current government officials are taking away government assets. They're hiding some and they're taking away, the depleting offices, they're taking away, assets of government. Those are the kind of things that transitional team is supposed to get on and make sure that people don't do that and that people are held accountable. So we hope that this can really continue and it can actually prevent uh, theft in government in that way so that the government just doesn't have to start looking for logistics again before they can start operation. People have to understand that those things that acquire while you're in public office are for government. When you're leaving the office, you're supposed to leave there. Okay, so the issue of the transition is there. Let's go after transition. After the president is inaugurated, what are those critical issues that we believe that should be tackled immediately? What do we consider those very critical issues that the Barker administration is expected to have hands on and just tackle immediately?
I think if I will start from here, what I'm hearing from people who are on the ground and even us in the diaspora is that the most significant thing is to bring about trust and belief in our public sector once again. And most times when we talk about trust and belief in the public sector, people look at the whole issue around accountability. And quality of individuals as a psychotherapist and as an educator.
We having problem with you, Singly. I think your connection is.
Many years, if you and we then we will have to work on those things immediately. We need to initiate trust into the people that we're going to associate the governance of the state to. I always say that of the hundreds of people who are in public sector, only 105 of them are elected. The president, the vice president, the 103 legislators, the 30 senators, and the 73 members of the House of Representatives. All of the rest of the people are appointed or are nominated by one person, and then they go through all the confirmation and they then are appointed by that same one person. So if we're talking about giving the Liberian people something for them to be comfortable with, which is having trust and belief once again in the public sector administration, the president, after his inaugural statement, must ensure that those he gives the responsibilities are called his lieutenants in the management of the state are people who will be responsible enough that the Liberian people will be hopeful to their steering of the state. And then the other things can then follow through. You know. But first thing is that the Liberian people want when Mr. Boakai, after his statement, steps out of the door, is ready. The readiness will be seen by the individuals that he named, that he names, and the programs that he develops. Those individuals develop for the attainment of their own belief system. Once again, in the public sector governance and management of the state resources.
Okay, you mentioned the issue of restoring confidence, and so Michael, I would just get you in, and then Cyrus too, since he's back. What does it require?
Yeah.
What does it entail to restore confidence back to the people? What kind of confidence is Pamela talking about? What can let's discuss the term of restoring confidence back to the people.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, accountability, it starts with accountability and with the president, the new president, holding himself accountable, declaring his assets immediately. Uh, and then when he starts to appoint people, before they even go to hearing for their appointment, they should declare their assets. If he's doing that, I think that begin to let the people know that he's serious about making sure fighting corruption. You know, and then also I look at this issue of vision versus audit, but there needs to be an audit. He needs to be as president what he took charge of, when he became president. So that audit is very important from that perspective. It's not just about saying, "Oh, this is what these guys did," but this is what they gave me. So when he's leaving office, he can be able to show the next administration what he's handing over to them, and then there can be a clear comparison between what he received and what he handed over. So the audit is very important. So confidence, in my opinion, will be him and his appointees declaring their assets, and then an audit.
Okay, so that's why we think that we restore some confidence to our government structure, declaring assets and ensuring that people are accountable for what they say and what they do, and then that's important. I think Cyrus might be having some issue, but he's back now. So we just like to hear you, Cyrus. What's your contribution to this line of discussion?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening. Where I am is night already, man. Good seeing you guys after at least a couple of weeks. And you seem it's been a while. I'm glad to be here on the panel with you also. So, the question you're asking our council of body is it's around the people having confidence in the government, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're looking at what are those immediate things that the government would need to tackle, and Pamela, same way suggested that the first thing is to restore confidence. So, and I asked, what are those things we need to do to restore confidence? And Michael suggested also accountability and declaration of assets for people who are coming into office.
Okay. I agree with both panelists. The question of requiring people to declare assets and the question of accountability, that means it starts from the controversy right now where most people are asking that the previous government be audited, and the key members of the previous government are saying that auditing will cause instability. if I'm to take that from what President Weah said in his sermon at his church, that to audit his people will affect the peace. I don't know how he translate that. But I think the first thing that that will show confidence in the government is in the selection of the stewards that the president-elect Boakai would name in the first place to run the government. I think that's the focus of the country right now. Who are the people who will make up the government? So there are rumors going around, the names being called, and every time you call some kind of name, I noticed that the people that if there was a barometer, you'll see their confidence level drop, and you call some other name, their confidence level go up. So I'm thinking that at least we're in the short run going towards the actual takeover in June, or what will determine whether people have confidence in the government or not initially will be the list of the people who will be named to take out the key leadership post in the new government. I mean, as you know that most of the people in government, both in the last 6 years and previous, are fairly known to the Liberian people, and most people have a profile of these people. What I thought probably I would like to keep in the back of our minds that is current right now, and maybe we should talk on it a little bit. There is a group of former CDC officials headed by Jefferson Koji who are making public their disapproval of President Weah conceding the elections, and they are also of President Weah's explicit concession. They are saying that they do not accept his election results. So there have been some small demonstrations here and there. I don't know whether they made a formal complaint to the Elections Commission with evidence on why they think the elections results should be considered invalid. But to the extent that Jefferson Koji, who is still the mayor of the city of Monrovia and Secretary General of the party, which he should not have been, is leading a group that is literally putting up a show that they're going to oppose the election. So it'll be interesting to see what becomes of that in a couple of weeks going to the transition into the new government. But like I said earlier, on the question of confidence, I think the people focus right now is actually on who are the people who former Vice President Boakai is going to select to fill these cabinet positions. And sadly for him, this is going to be a challenge because the people he select will actually determine whether the people are certain that they can have confidence in him or not.
Well, thank you. You guys, all of you are actually correct. But competence too is an issue of perception, and that is why a new administration, has as an important deliverable that you need to play on the perception of the people, how what you do and how they perceive the government is important since you want that confidence that you have a viable and productive leadership, especially responsible leadership that you be looking at. We've complained for the last 5 or 6 years of a lot of irresponsible appointment to different institutions, with people who did not develop or did not have a requisite criteria. So the issue of merit, who merits to go here, what's the competence level of public officials that are appointed, we play an important role, in doing that. The next group of officials that are going to be appointed to go for a Senate hearing, or that are people who are supposed to be perceived as qualified professional people that will provide, that will bring some dignity to the government and are able to deliver the services to which, to the institutions to which they are appointed. So people are going to be looking at that. What's about the issue of government payroll? There's so much rumor that in the last few days, different heads of institutions began to just stuff government payroll with employees, hoping that they can be retained. So agencies run by different government institutions have been flooded with people who are just coming on, and this also seems to have been an exercise that happened throughout the administration in different agencies. I can name the situation is alarming at the National Social Security and Welfare Corporation, at the National Port Authority, at the Ministry of Transport, and so many government institutions in the world just have people put on payroll and this, and now it's even worse. How can a government come in and inheriting an issue like this? How can they address it? What's the way to go about more effective way to go about something like
Well, before you guys answer, just to add to that, there is rumors around that in this 11th hour, that in fact that new sets of people are being added to payrolls here and there, so that it appears as though they're already employed when the new government assumed authority in January.
that? Yeah.
But I think,
Yeah, I think there's a lot uh,
go ahead,
that
Michael.
this new administration has lots of challenges. And I think within the first 100 days, based on how things are and how they carry themselves, will determine how well their 6 years will go. If they, come into office and start following suit and not, checking and fixing things right away, some of these excessive names that we're hearing are being added, trying to cut down the government, the number of civil servants, because there's a lot. I've been to some offices at government buildings, and you'll see 5 people sitting there with the same job responsibility. And I do understand that economically these people all need jobs. Unfortunately, we don't have a private sector for them to find jobs. But that's what this administration needs to start tackling in the very beginning. Identifying the overage in salaries that we're paying. Most government employees cannot even get good salaries because there's too many people on the payroll. So you have to spread the money. You can pay civil servants well because 5 persons have to split that salary that 2 person, will get. So there's a lot they have to tackle within the next first 100 days, and that will determine how well, they will do in the rest of their term. I also saw reports of heavy bills or debt that the Liberian government has to pay this December, $26 million that they owe external debt. There's local debt. So that's why the audit is important, because then it helps them understand where the money, the budget that was allocated for this year, where has it gone? And if there's no money in the coffers, then why isn't it there? Why wasn't there budget for the external and local debt that needs to be paid by government? If they will be able to meet those, they need to start making arrangements. There's just so much they have to do. It's not an easy task.
I think, yeah, I think one of the things that we need to be keen at looking after is that after the elections and the announcement of a winner, in this case, is not the incumbent that continues to govern the state, but it's an incoming government. One of the best things we can do in public service is for the current administration to manage just what's happening, and long-term obligations of the state should be left with the incoming administration. They cannot take on the function of trying to, one, obligate through maybe concessionary agreements, to obligate through payment of substantial debt arrangements, if those arrangements were not made before the transitional period. If those arrangements were made before the transitional period and they were just because of time and circumstances waiting for them to be implemented, we can say yes, we can do that. That is the reason why you're having this transitional team is there for more than 60 days, so that the two sides of the team can work together. Government is continuity, right? On the second piece, and that was the first piece that Sarah, she was raising, if people don't know about management of the state through organizations, and who has the authority to be the spokesperson for the entity. I'm a teacher. But then we have to go back to the governance education way back again in high schools, or colleges and graduate schools, right? I think our form of democracy
We seem to be having a lot of issues with our guests once they're on. They're
is
showing on their cell phone.
dissolve.
Simply, we're not hearing you. We're advised that
Is
you
a
go
form
back in.
of wanting
We're losing Singme, right?
Yeah, we
See
lost him.
me?
Maybe you will try to come back. We got you, Sarah, so you and Michael can come in before I say something.
Yeah, I wanted to add a few other things here. Look, these transition periods are a little tricky, right? Because already, and this is my personal observation, already it seemed that over the last nearly 6 years, was not really engaged in the issue of governance, right? He's been applauded that he conceded the election even before the elections commission came down with the final results, which is good. But I think we are taking lightly this issue of stewards of his party who have been having free reign, like Jefferson Koji, literally in defiance to their leaders' statements of concession, still rallying people at the CDC headquarters and making the case that they're going to disrupt whatever because they don't believe that the elections were free and fair and the elections were rigged. That is one issue. So I think as we go full speed to get the two sets of transition people from the president and president-elect Boakai together, we should take notice of what's happening around because they had a tendency of creating issues. Now, you talk about the confidence of the people. You know that there have been a major advocacy for the last few years about the establishment of War Economic Crimes Court. If you look at the configuration of the parties that were able to get President-elect Joe Boakai elected, it seemed to me it would be difficult to have a conversation about War Economic Crime Code at this time. It will also be difficult to have a conversation about holding people like Nathaniel McGill and Jefferson, that guy, Bill Tuare, who clearly in the election period used literally funds that they had stolen to entice people to vote for them, but now they've been elected into positions in the Senate. How do you deal with that? So there are discussions here and there, and it's literally a quagmire. I heard somebody say that, okay, if we act to stop these two people from taking their seats because they were they are under U.S. sanction, and maybe it will also impact Prince Johnson. So the general opinion may be that, look, so let's just let that other sleeping door lie. What's in that is already from the beginning a clear case, if that is what it is, that the new administration will run the risk of ignoring concerns that people have for the issue of law and order and and curbing impunity. So these are some of the things that I think are critical that are underpinning what's happening right now. And if we are not careful, we'll throw them under the new elected president will throw them under the rug, and he will start off an administration with having set a bad precedent. It will be difficult to correct them as we go forward. I know these are difficult circumstances, but I think that we need to begin to talk about it. That's why it was necessary that the issue of law and order, accountability for past crime should not be entangled with political expediency.
those are valid. Those
Yeah,
are valid.
I do see what you're saying.
Hold on, Michael. Those are
Yeah,
very valid
and I think
points.
too that it's very difficult.
Michael, just hold on. Just hold on.
Go ahead.
Sarah, you mentioned the concern about Jefferson Koji and others. There's an issue of standing. I have not heard since the election results were announced that there have been any registered opposition through the election results. There is a regime, a protocol that you follow by filing your complaint to election commission or filing a petition before the Supreme Court to stop the result from being announced based on fraud. So if there's an alleged fraud, the election commission should have heard it by now. There's something that goes to the hearing officer, and then it goes on to the board of commissioners. If the parties are still not satisfied and still agree, then they go to the Supreme Court to hear those election matters. Nothing of such has been announced, so I don't know whether they have it. So this now becomes a challenge to the government coming in, how to deal with this issue of security and insecurity that people want. These are troublemakers, and I think what we've been saying from the very start of this CDC administration that they full of talks. These are people who ignore laws. That's what Jefferson Koji and Co might be doing right now. What is manifesting is the kind of person that Jefferson Koji is. If this standard bearer will come and concede and they go against what the standard bearer saying, what they're asking for. So there's an issue of law, that can be used to just deal with these people. If there are any dissent regarding the election results, there are procedures that are clearly laid down and they are aware of. Jefferson Koji is CDC is Secretary General for CDC as well as the publicity mayor. You imagine that, but he the spokesperson for CDC. That's it. So in this case, will be the leadership of CDC filing a disagreement, filing the grievances to the election commission, and the commission deliberating, discussing that, and passing a judgment on it. When they're not satisfied and still agree, they go to the Supreme Court. We've not heard of anything like that. So that thing you're doing is just the issue of lawlessness, and the government needs to be decisive about dealing with it. This is one of the biggest challenges that the government has, the issue of security. How can we use the law and insist on the law in spite of who's involved, what are the persons involved? We use the law. We got to remain a country of law. We have to insist that people respect our laws. So this is something I think that we deal with. The other issue that you spoke about with officials, coming to government. The persons you mentioned, the Nathaniel McGay, Bay 12, Prince Johnson, under the Global Magnitsky Act and all of that. What the U.S. government did was to provide an opportunity for the government of Liberia to investigate these people for corruption. The government of Liberia has not investigated these people for corruption. They have not been charged. And because of that, the election commission could not stop them from participating in the election. But there was no official act on the part of the Liberian government accusing these people. What they were accused of was about for a foreign government. So they went ahead and qualified them for election. And in truth of that, the Liberian people went and voted for these people. So I think is in line with the law. It's tough to stop them from taking their seat in the legislature until they go to trial. But nothing prevents the government from investigating them and charging them if there's credible evidence that they were engaged in corruption. Once they are charged, they can be removed from the Senate or from the House of Representatives, because the Senate rule provides for that. Any member of the Senate who is convicted of a crime, it can be removed from the Senate. The Senate will just need to have the guts to do that. I want to talk about the guts. We had a situation with Major Tiende. Major Tiende was a sitting senator. He was charged for economic crimes against Liberia. He was tried. He was found guilty. And he ended up paying $50,000 to avoid going to jail. But that didn't stop him from being removed from the Senate. The Senate who have voted to remove him, but they chose not to, because the document was given to them and the request was made, but they just chose not to. So this is an issue that will be that's going to be coming in. It's a serious issue. I don't think that Amanda McGee and Big Trouble with the reports of the kind of corruption we're engaging should be sitting in there. Or you have to launch an investigation and then charge them officially. You have to be charged and then send to court. If they found guilty, yeah, then they can be removed. So those are the issues that the government has to deal with going forward. You know, so like I said, the issue of protesting, we got laws laid down, but it's so the Jefferson Koji and his life, his thoughts is clearly be there with that. Until CDC file a complaint, which the Election Commission has to look into and then to go to the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court passes on it. Those people are just troublemakers. That's how we deal with them. And this is the time to insist. This is talking about confidence, instilling confidence in government. This is another challenge for the government. When they take the law, they have to insist that the law will prevail. The law and order must be established. People cannot just run around the country, and do what they want to do. So now going, people will have to be arrested. People will have to be charged. People will have to be prosecuted. If we have to do that, we do that. To instill law and order, some things are going to happen. Something will have to happen, in terms of the full arm of the law. Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Sure. So you said a lot, and a lot of it I agree with, but it goes back to some of the challenges we had in the previous administration or the current administration with enforcing the law. We witnessed on multiple occasions the police force did not make any effort to investigating atrocities or situations appropriately, or reporting those situations appropriately, or their investigative results. So if this is something that's going to happen, lots of funds have to be put into the police force. Or I don't know if it's because the administration had the police, locked down, so the police was not functioning effectively, or if it was just a lack of resource. So if there's a lack of resource, then this new administration has to pump a lot of money into our law enforcement. And then also it comes down to who is appointed as Solicitor General and Justice Minister. Like Sarah said in the beginning, the people that are appointed will show how serious this administration is to making change or bringing about change. And then with Jefferson Koji running around, he has the right to protest election results. I feel like it's his right, but do it according to the law. Like you said, file the necessary complaints. If you want to protest, you can protest peacefully in wherever you want to go and wherever you are approved to go. But you have the right to do that. If you don't feel like election results were what you expected or what you think happened. But there's a lot that needs to happen, and justice and law enforcement is one of those things that the current incoming administration needs to pay close attention to. Whoever is the new police inspector general, if they change the current police inspector general, solicitor general, LACC boss, and the justice minister. Those are very key roles that will determine how what President Boakai means when it comes to accountability in this country.
It's good. It's good. Thank you. It's good to have a sponsor back. I hope, in spite of the technical issues you were having at sponsor, that you were able to follow the discussion. So if you want to come in now, I think it's an appropriate time for you to come in. But we're just discussing issue of responsibility, responsible government, in terms of the governance process and what people expect of the government in the next 100 days after power.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yes, I've been having some technical issues. But yes, just to come in, I want to start on with right after the first round of voting, before the second round, Gallup did a poll in Liberia, and it touched on issues of. Let me see if I can just load one or two of the slides here. So this is where perception of standard of living, because again, in terms of talking about what the expectations of the people are, I wanted to use this poll to discuss that, because Gallup went into Liberia, as I said, and talked to Liberian people about what their challenges were, what are the things that were confronting them, and what were they looking for, in the new administration. They talk about perception of standard of living in Liberia. As you can see, 2010 to 2020, When it did the study, you see the standard of living fell significantly on the president. So one of the challenges that the income administration will have is trying to address the issue of standard of living of the Liberian people. Has to do with the economy, jobs, prices of commodities, and security. You guys were talking about security. They also did touch on security um, a little bit. Let me see if I can find a slide on security here. So that is basically security is probably small. You can see it, but I'll just read the notes that they have on it. Um, they're saying here that about only 32% of Liberians felt safe walking alone at night in 2022, far below the sub-Saharan African median of 51%, and among the lowest in the world. So Gallup ranked Liberia uh, at the bottom of law and other index for 2022 with a score of 49, while the global score stood at 83. So again, issue of security, and I want to bring this up because you guys were also discussing the issue of security. Confidence in the police, confidence in law enforcement, confidence in our court systems. These are tremendous challenges that this incoming administration is inheriting and have to deal with. Let me see. There's another issue, the standard of living. Let's just go back to the other slide. Living standard bad and getting worse. So slightly over a third of Liberians, 37% in 2023, are satisfied with their standard of living. Just 37%. I guess those are people who are connected to the CDC and government people, and getting stuff. But that's down from 41% in 2018 when we had took office. So it was 41%, now it's 37%. Moreover, just 43% feel the standard of living is getting better, compared with 56% who feel is getting worse. Again, these are things that a new administration will be inheriting. That's another issue. So basically, it's just a breakdown of the highlights of their survey. Again, 56% of Liberians feel standard of living is getting worse. 74% report not having enough money for food in the past year. 32% felt safe walking alone at night in 2022, among the lowest in the world. So, really talking about the challenges that this new administration is coming into, this Gallup poll just really lays it out, and I hope the administration looks at these. Yes, I just wanted to, make this as my input. But thank you.
Good analysis there, Alfonso. But something I think you left out would be it's important to
Yep.
say also the sample size. Because I hear you just saying 74% of Liberia, and obviously Gallup did not
Mhm.
interview or talk with all Liberians. So what's the sample size? That we use. So we say 74% of this sample size, actually say they
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
unsafe. That's very important.
Hmm. Yeah, no, yeah. I will briefly find what the sample size is, but again, it's a sample size, so it's a sample of the larger. So what they want to do these, they try to project what the larger population is thinking. So yeah, but yeah, I'll bring that up later at some point. But yeah, as we all know, the issue of security is paramount in Liberia. We have Brazogos in the streets. We have police. I heard Michael saying police forces not really doing their job law and order, which is their primary responsibility. The court system, it's somewhat corrupt, not, dispensing justice as it should. So these are all security concerns. We have drugs coming into the country through the borders. That's an issue. That's a security issue that also impinges on the economy because when people are on drugs, obviously they're not productive citizens and stuff. So again, these are all challenges that a new administration must really put their finger on and try to address immediately.
Okay. So what do we make of the statement coming from the outgoing president during his service, and I think in a second interview where he had mentioned that that he did not audit the past administration because he wanted to keep the peace. And then he's advising the incoming administration
Mm-hmm.
to actually keep the peace and avoid auditing his government or members of his government. I mean, what do you all make of that? Because I find that statement as unacceptable and it's something that just is not a lie, it's not allowed to good government. How can one outgoing administration advise an incoming administration not to conduct an audit? You know, our Liberia public financial management laws provide that every government institutions that receive government funding should be audited annually. You know, and then so the commission, the General Auditing Commission, is supposed to conduct an annual audit, and it's just the wisest thing to do for any incoming administration taking over the reins of the past administration to know what is there, what they've done, and to get accountability for what they are taking over from. You know, so and the best way to do that without witch hunting is to conduct an audit. And that's exactly what the audit is about, you know. So I don't know what you all make of it, you know, in terms of that, but audit, in my view, is one of the best way to evaluate, you know, a past administration and to understand what they did and to provide accountability to the people regarding their resources and how their resources and offices were utilized over a given period. So for me, it's insane for any outgoing leader to advise another leader not to conduct audit on account of keeping the peace. I think that's how you keep the peace by conducting audit and providing accountability. It's peaceful. Anything you do without an audit providing this next step, that would be an amount to witch hunting. So there's an inverse relationship with witch hunting and peace. You know, I think if the audit is not conducted, then the incoming government will be taking responsibility for the action of the past government. You know, so I don't see how you guys respond to that, but I would just say that auditing is the most professional and civil way to go about in terms of evaluating the performance of one government and providing a clear cut statement to the population about what the new government is inheriting from the outgoing government.
Well, I would
Well,
just
I think we
to
should take
I would,
Mr.
I don't even understand what the
Go ahead, Cyrus.
well, I just wanted to quote. I had a lengthy
go ahead.
interview last week with Dr. Tubana Tipote, and I picked up a short phrase that he kept on pushing to me. He said, peace is not the absence of violence. He said, peace is the presence of justice. So, going back to the president's assertion, what I gather from that is really not strange because, look, the last close to 6 years of Weah's administration uh, was characterized by a wanton abuse of the public trust and resources that he literally allowed to happen. I mean, there are cases where people like the managing director of the port authority, uh, it's been said that he will take to the president $5,000 every weekend, so that the president's spending money. So when the president comes out and say, one who has been trusted with all these resources and sovereignty. Sovereignty, most times we take it for granted, but it's an intangible. You can't even measure. It's invaluable. You notice that over the period there were many cases of foreigners, mostly people involved in crime. There was a case of a guy somewhere in the Southeastern Asia airport, I think it's Malaysia or Singapore, who went to go through security with a diplomatic pouch and the check it loaded with cocaine, and he tried to run away, jump over the rail, and he dropped to his death. And the check it pocket, he's carrying a Liberian passport. So sometimes when they
Mm.
talk about audit, they probably think about only money alone. But even the abuse of the authority and sovereignty that was given to people, because these are things that we need to understand and we need to correct so that we can put our country back in proper standing, not only in the domestic space, but also in the international space, so that the people will know that, look, there are people now who have identified some of these ills, and they are putting it they're mitigating it. So for the president to come out and act as though he's cautioning the new people that, look, let that bygone be bygone, because if you don't allow that to happen, there's a good chance that you will create instability in the country. Well, it more or less to me sounds like the president himself is desperate, so that people cannot bring to light some of the improprieties that were out of or permeating as a result of his omission or his very actions. I don't think that should deter the new government from actually conducting audit, not only on financial issues, but also on other processes and government systems and the management of the name of the country. I mean, things were happening all over the country. Irresponsible people were sent to foreign missions and given very senior position, and they left bad names for us over there. We need to understand that, so that when we're making decisions to send people out to represent us in those cases, we'll be informed by what happened before.
Okay. Michael?
Yeah, I was saying that we should not take what the president is saying lightly about the audit in peace. I think it's telling, given that during his administration we lost a lot of auditors. So we should be very, very careful as to how we proceed with this. But I do think the audit is necessary. It needs to happen. It's accountability, and I see it more from the perspective of not just holding accountable what the previous administration has done, but also taking into consideration and they're telling Liberian people what you are taking charge of, what they are handing over to you financially, logistically, and all the projects that are going on. And then also taking into consideration the fact that you don't want going forward that this to be the trend where government officials will come in, and it serves as a warning too for your own officials you're appointing, that I'm auditing the previous administration, and if anybody is found corrupt or misuse of government property or resources, we will prosecute them. So the next administration will prosecute you if you don't perform your duties correctly. We are not going to protect you. And I think that's very important for the future, not just for the past, but the future of Liberia.
Dr. Shenwood? Dr. Singway, you want to come in? Okay, looks like Singway is not listening right now, but do you guys remember that in 2018, when President Weah took over, the outgoing administration of President Salif announced that they left, I think, $156 million or $56 million. I'm not very good with figures, but I know it was some 56, either $156 million or $56 million that was left in government coffers in terms for the new government to just take on and run with government. And the Weah administration were disputing that. You all remember that?
Yep.
Weah administration actually disputed the amount that any administration keep, and former President Eddie had the second opportunity and came back again and reiterated the amount that they left. That is why audit is important, because if I was in the Weah administration at that, if the outgoing administration gave account of what they left and we were not satisfied, that was the basis to audit the entire administration. We know what was going on. But they chose not to. Even though they were disputing it, and the past administration still insisted that this is the amount we left in government coffers. So Weah does not expect that this new administration should make the same mistake that he made. And I don't see how anybody, any citizen, anywhere in the world will be asking his government not to conduct audit of an outgoing administration, especially like you mentioned, Sarah. There was a litany of issues involving impropriety, corruption, and abuse of office. Those things need to happen, and I think that is how we can actually keep the peace. I don't know whether Mr. Dr. Simba is ready to provide input now. Simba, if you're ready to provide input, you want to come in, you can come in now. Well, okay, so what do you all think?
It seems to be not.
I think Simba is muted.
I can come.
Yeah, I was talking. I was muted. I'm sorry. Go back again with your response. With your question.
No, we're talking about talking about the issue of audit of the past administration with outgoing president. We are asking or suggesting to the incoming government that they should not audit he and his officials if they want to keep the peace. What's your reaction to something like that? What's your advice?
Man, gentlemen, it's not bad for President Weah to request that his government should not be audited. The reaction of the incoming administration that the Liberian people told that we need you, Mr. Boakai, to come in, and his mantra is rescue the state. If rescuing the state means that people who have had uh, responsibility to managing the state need to come and tell the people, you gave me 4 days, whether it's a minister, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and other thing. This is what I did with your stewardship. If the government that is incoming cannot ask the government that is outgoing as to how they manage the state, I think it's the service to the republic. Like Mr. Weir did in 2018 without a comprehensive, presumably, because I did not see any document, without a comprehensive audit of the previous administration of Mrs. Sirleaf. Mr. Weir came out to say that the government was 80% in proficiency. So if Mr. Barker feels that the government is proficient and he does not audit the government, anything that goes on wrong is his prerogative, is his responsibility. As for Mr. Weir asking the question, he has the right to ask the question. But then it is the prerogative of the incoming government to accept the request or not. I think because as a Liberian and as somebody who worked in the public space, who was audited multiple times for the stewardship of those functions I had, I think it is the responsibility of the incoming government to audit every aspect of our public governance process, from financial to human capacity, alignment with the system, to everything that has to do with auditing. And most times we think auditing is just about money. No, it's about the placement and or misplacement of the human resources that were available to you. So let's give Mr. Wheeler has made his statement fine, but let's also give Mr. Boakai the space to do that. And I am one person who, though not member of his administration or his party, have supported Mr. Boakai because of many obvious reasons. But I will be the same person that will come out and say, hey, this is not what the Liberian people anticipated and expected, because the Liberian people said in its approval for Mr. Boakai to become the leader of the state that they wanted to join him so that the nation could be rescued. Rescue means multiple things to ensure that the management of the national resources that were available to the current administration, which will be a past administration after Mr. Boakai takes over, is sought out and known whether it was used for the right purpose.
Alfonso, I think you're trying to project a statement by President Weah in 2018. I'm not sure he remembers that statement anymore, but you want to bring it up and then come in with your input. That would be good.
You want me to bring it up? Okay, let me bring it up. Let me find the slide and bring it up. Yeah, but anyway, I don't I don't even understand where President Weah is coming from when he said, "Don't audit us. If you audit us, you'll be undermining the peace." Not auditing you, not giving an account of the resources of the country, not making sure that the resources of the country are applied to the undermines peace. It's not ensuring accountability that undermines peace. So I don't even understand where President Weah said. And that statement when he took over, Why is loading? Let me see if I can find it here. When he took over as president in in 2018, um, this is what he said. Let me read it why I'm finding that particular slide. He said,
Mhm.
"It is my belief that the most effective way to impact the poor and to narrow the gap between rich and poor is to ensure that public resources do not end up in the pockets of government officials. I believe that the overwhelming mandate I received from the Liberian people is a mandate to end corruption in public places." This is George Weah in 2018 inaugural speech.
And
Oh,
what's the
this is
statement? What's
what
the
George
statement
Weah
in
is saying.
2023?
This is what George Weah is saying 6 years later. We must prioritize the welfare of our people and the development of the country by pursuing by pursuing witch hunts against my officials and me. We risk derailing the peace we have worked towards. Going after officials from this government will only hinder the promises we made towards achieving lasting peace. Our government refrained from pursuing past officials for the sake of maintaining peace. Boakai should follow suit. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf handed power over to us, and we upheld the peace. Boakai needs to do the same. So no accountability, no audits, because audits will be undermining the peace. We didn't audit the previous government, and therefore Mr. Barker and his people should not audit us, because if they audit us, they will not be keeping the peace. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I think Cyrus made a very important point what Dr. Chipote made, which is, peace is not just the absence of war or the absence of violence. People have basic needs, and it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that those basic needs are met. And how does the government do that? Through the right stewardship and management and distribution, fair and just distribution of national resources. That's how that happens. That's how we get security, because we have police people who are paid to provide us security. That's how people are able to go to school. That's how we get food to eat. That's how people get jobs. Now, if you misapply those resources, put them in your pocket, and you don't fund education, you don't fund security, you don't fund health care, then people are not living the lives that are guaranteed them by their human rights. And they're not benefiting from the resources that were given to them, by the fact that they inherited the country and the resources that are there. That means they're not benefiting from the taxes that they are paying. So that is the foundation, that's the very foundation and basis of problems of undermining the peace. People go to war, countries go to war and fight wars, and Liberia has had that experience because the resources of the country are not judiciously applied to addressing the needs of the people. So you can't tell us, hey, you have to take the money, put it in your pockets, and run around and threaten us at that. If you want peace, don't come after us for the money that we stole. Because if you do it, you'll be undermining the peace. We'll strike back. And I think Michael made an important point earlier. Who knows what they might be planning to do if we start going after them? Might they be killing auditors? Michael talked about several auditors died under mysterious circumstances in this administration. Could they begin to go after people who, go after auditors, go after prosecutors, go and try to eliminate them in the belief or hope that they might, squash some cases or evidence against them? We don't know. So I think the incoming administration must take this extremely, extremely seriously. But definitely, in fact, Dr. Singh said, and he's right, I'm going to leave it to this government, but I will go even further to say that no, we as citizens of this country shouldn't even leave it to the government. It cannot be just their decision. If Waka decides not to order, then fine. No, if Waka decides not to order, we the people must insist that Waka, because Waka has a responsibility to do so. Our leaders are supposed to manage our resources, and if they are not doing it, we have the right to push them to do so. So we will we will and we should push the Boakai administration. We shouldn't even leave it to them to say let bygone be bygone. No, we must push them and make sure that the audit is done, that an accounting of our national resources is done, because that's the only way this country will move forward. That's just the only way. And there has to be a point where this whole thing is broken, and this is the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. These are the kind of challenges that this government is
Yeah.
inherent is going to have to deal with. And another challenge is the fact that the incoming government during campaign season actually went to bed with different people, you know, based on the alliances that were formed. Now you're taking over. There are some baggages that the government is carrying. Somebody mentioned the issue of Prince Johnson, and there can be many others. How in terms of accountability and protecting human rights, how do you deal with the fact that you have among your key alliances people who have also been accused, by the international community that, for example, the U.S. government actually sanctioned Prince Johnson under the Magnitsky Act for human rights violation and some form of corruption. So if you're going to investigate other people for corruption, what happened to the people in your backyard? What did you do? And that going forward is a decision for the government. That is how you actually test the government resolve to respect law and order, the rule of law, and to be open and transparent, to the people. And so I see this as a challenge to the government. And I think in the first 100 days, decision regarding things that they should be taking, who's going to be investigated, what the government going to do to look back at the behavior of public officials in the past government, how you're going to correct it. So I think that is a serious issue that we have to face. We will have to face that in the
Mhm.
coming soon.
I wanted to add to that burden that we already have. One of the things that most people attribute to former Vice President Boakai is his integrity, and there have been notions around that, oh, the old man is old, and he would just let things happen. And there have been vehement support from many people that I know, especially he's not sleeping, as you may think he's doing, and he's decisive. So we still haven't seen reason to believe that that is not the case. But also the president's authority, there is another thing playing out about integrity. The candidates who are putting themselves forward to be speakers of the House. So at least as of late, we know that Thomas Fala is one of those aspiring for the speakership. Musa Beliti is the second. There's a representative, I think, from the southeast called Richard Kuhn. He's the third. He's the least new among them, but I hear that there are a lot more about integrity from his side. And then the fourth person is Funati Kofa. So there are different commentaries about these people. Now, there is a perception here in Liberia that with Joseph Boakai's administration, we have an opportunity to be able to champion more integrity than going back to the things of the past. What are your views about these four candidates for speaker?
No, besides our individual views, the responsibility of selecting people for the speakership is the responsibility of the Senate. And we could have a whole lot of views, negative views or positive. Is the senators who are going to select their speaker. So what citizens can do, of course, can petition the senators, the House of Senate to make sure that certain persons are not
You mean
elected.
you mean the representatives?
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. I'm talking about the House of Representatives. So members of the House of Representatives can be petitioned with evidence against these people who they want to be elected. But it's true that people with already these shaded backgrounds, I think the speakership actually in terms of a senator in our Liberian democracy. The speaker comes as the person third in line. So we should be electing people, with impeccable character, people with distinguished character, and not people who characters are marred by corruption and crime and all of that. So a lot of those people you name, of course, have very shady background, including fanatic profile. I don't know who are the other, I don't even remember. The only person name who doesn't resonate with me is the Kum person. I don't know much about that, but there was an issue with fanatic profile involving the Liberian National Bar Association and whether he should be actually allowed to practice law because of his experience in America, where he was accused and sentenced to jail for converting,
Yeah.
theft of property, that. That's the issue with fanatic profile. Uh, he still has an issue with the past government where he received some amount of money as well, to conduct an investigation of government officials who were accused. With nothing came out of that investigation, and he got almost $90,000 to do that. We don't even have any accounting of that money, and many other things. I don't know who the other person is you mentioned.
President Thomas Fala.
That is another person who has very shady background as well. So
Thomas Fala.
Thomas Pala and
Thomas Fala.
his role in the local county situation too. He's somebody who has been involved in a lot of negative reporting and negative news. I don't think those people should be given an opportunity to come close to public office like that in terms of the sentencing. Anything that happens in Liberia and the speaker, becomes the person who inherits the executive action. So, but that's the responsibility of the House of Representatives. And the thing is, how much do these representatives listen to their constituents? But civil society and the different constituencies, can actually mount pressure to make sure that people like this are not considered. We had a man of Boakai who also had very questionable background. As a matter of fact, it was even known that he did not even acquire a doctorate degree, and they called himself Dr. Boakai.
He was not carrying his own name.
Not even carry his own name. Imagine that. We have to depart from this ugly history that we have in our country. I'll tell you, gentlemen, and at some point in time, we have to say, this is where we start. This is where the buck stops. And I think if we believe that this country is going to be rescued, from immorality, from crime, from human rights abuse, from corruption, this is about the time we need to stop. And civil society can actually mount pressure on the House of Representatives to make sure that people of these characters are not brought close to power. But again, it's the same people who are electing these people. The way to start it is just not elect them at all. We stay electing these people. So do you think that those people who elected them told their different position are going to come and petition the House of Representatives, say don't let the man become speaker when we got already let you vote for it? So this might be the way of civil society organization rather than the constituents.
The other person in disability, I know there are still litigations. There are outstanding monies about the road fund that he has not paid yet. Are those not sufficient grounds to, if I don't say prevent him from running, or prevent him from assuming the speakership? Look, if you look at Ability, you look at Funati, you look at Thomas Fallad now, they seem to be very vested in different areas of businesses around the country. If you have such a person as speaker, there is a huge chance of conflict of interest and influence peddling around the country that will bring us right back to what exactly we're trying to avoid.
There seems to be something wrong with our society, gentlemen. That's the first. I think the first step is those people, the constituents, voters knowing these people have this background and not supposed to be voting for them at all. Those kind of people have no business being in the House of Representatives. Musa Benedict was banned by FIFA as well for him, for getting involved in FIFA, international something. Musa Benedict was banned. He was sanctioned, for corruption in FIFA. So all these people, the first thing is they should. I don't see why they got elected. But again, so when they get elected, you make it even more difficult for you, for the public, or for the organization to impose sanctions or to censor them when they get elected. So now the ball is actually in the court of the House of Representatives, and we all know how corrupt that House of Representatives is. You all know what they do there. So uh, at some point, the quality of people we elect to public offices, got to be, the thing that we look at seriously. So right now, Musa Berete and others who uh, the House of Representatives need to be, but I think it is the civil society now that owners can actually rally around against these people when they put themselves forward to make sure that they're not elected. But that ball is red within the House of Representatives. Yeah.
It seems like the most corrupt individuals in our
Oh,
society
yeah.
all
And you
end up
have
in the
Fonati.
after. Uh, Go ahead, Alfonso. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Go, Mike. Go, Mike. I'll follow you. I'll follow you.
I was saying that it seems like the most corrupt individuals in our societies all end up in the legislature, uh, and it seems like it's the low hanging fruit when it comes to getting government job, because they feel the people are naive enough that they can easily convince them, and unfortunately, our people are to a certain extent naive, uneducated, and some of these things that we're talking about getting sanctioned by the U.S. government, get banned by FIFA. Those things, the people don't see as a direct effect to them. They don't see what effect it has on their daily lives. So when these people go to campaign and other opposition are talking about this, they don't really care about it because they don't see it as having any effect on them. And our people are uneducated. Unfortunately, no government has really invested in the education of our people to help them make more logical decisions. And because of that, these people prey on our citizens, our people every day. For someone like McGill and Bill Twelve and Prince Johnson to continue to win elections in Liberia, it's it's crazy. It's really crazy. But it is what it is, and unfortunately, I think that will be one place that really needs to be cleaned up is our legislature. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it needs to happen at some point in time. I don't know. I know three of the names that were mentioned by Cyrus but the Kuhn fellow, I don't know who he is. So at this point, I can't speak to his qualifications for the speakership. But those are the three guys that should be considered. I think a lot of other individuals in the House of Representatives that should be putting up their names. I don't know why they're sitting there and not doing anything about it. Because these people put their names up to get elected if nobody else is fighting against that. So I hope some other people, some other individuals can step up.
Okay, I thought to put this comment by one of our viewers, Mr. McNeil White, up. He sent this comment out earlier when we're discussing the issue of who should be considered eligible to fill government offices by Ambassador Boakai. I mean, before we go into that discussion, I just wanted to remind us that the Constitution gave the right to the president to select nominate his officials at his will and pleasure. But knowing what we know and rely on the examples of the last administration where people without any inclination to perform were placed in the position and we know the outcome. So there is a fervent among the Liberian people that are more competent people with core competence in specific areas and integrity be appointed. I think it's to that Mr. White wrote this statement. What do you say about it? He personally think they should have a think tank comprising of people from home and the diaspora and develop clear plans, operational, tactical, and strategic, over the next 45 days for every sector before they take over officially. They would need to hit the ground running. I think he's speaking of the government.
I think it's too late for that.
Yeah.
I think this is something Boyka has been wanting to be president for 6 years. This is something that he should have done even before last election. He should have his agenda in terms of his development plan for Liberia. It shouldn't be something that's being done after he's finally won election. This is something that he should have done, documented, and his people should be well versed in their plan. Unlike the CDC government that came into power with pro agenda and they couldn't even explain what that meant. So I understand a national unity approach to it, something similar to what Chancellor did back in the days, and I think that's important to do. But that should be done with a plan already in place, and that plan can be modified once you're president. you call a national convention. You bring in experts from different areas and different industries to come in and help strategize for Liberia 45, 50 years in the future. But before you become president, you have to have a plan in place. So just in case if this national unity convention or whatever you call it doesn't work or doesn't come to fruition within the time frame you want, you still have something you're working on until you can make this happen. So it's a good idea. It's just it should happen before, you know, the president should come into power with his own plan in place to implement while working on the national unity plan that he can bring other experts in.
There's still more than 35 days before the president takes over, though.
Yeah, but if we start planning now, if they come into place now and start bringing in these experts without them having a plan before even election, uh you'll be appointing people into office who will be learning on adjusting and learning what this new objective is and this new strategy is you know and I think that's not good. For you will not be effective in the first 100 days, and we know the first 100 days is very important to kind of lay the guidelines and lay the ground rules for where your government is going. So if he's looking at doing that now or after the election, I think that's going to have a bad impact on his first 100 days in office.
So what's the alternative? Are you assuming, Marco, that he may already have a plan?
I do hope that he already has a plan. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to bring in people from the diaspora and local Liberians, experts, to formulate a plan, but you have to come in place with something. You have to have a strategy for your administration, or how you're going to implement your economic strategy, agriculture, healthcare, education, the different sectors, how you're going to improve those sectors. In the meantime, while you're working on that, then you can have a national convention like he's talking about, bring all these foreign experts, you know, put a plan together, compare it to what you already have, and modify that. And that can be a roadmap for the government going forward for other administrations to, follow after. But you cannot come into office, you cannot be running for president and say, when I win it, we'll figure it out. Then, that doesn't give any confidence for your leadership as candidate to lead our people.
I think I got the impression that the Boakai administration, his team,
Yes, sorry.
already has a think tank. He may not be calling it a think tank, but he has a core team that has been involved in consultation, discussion in different areas for a while. I don't think winning the election is this thing that actually prompted this. I think they had this think tank or this advisory group before, and this advisory group is in action. So I would expect that they will impact the next set of actions, coming very soon after the inauguration. Really do think so. So we're looking forward to see, like we said earlier in the show, the confidence that people are looking for, the assurance that we're talking about that the country is going to be rescued, can actually be provided in the first 100 days. You see, the perception there is very important. What kind of perception the government is going to demonstrate when they finally take over? I think that is very important. Also, very important is for President Boakai, the president-elect Boakai, once he's inaugurated or knows his team, should begin to encourage them in all of them, ask them to declare their assets. But that's a requirement of government. That's a law. And people, I know that I'm trying to, let me see if I can share my screen and see what the law is on this. Is yeah, I hope you all can see my screen. Here is in section 10. If you all can see, I'm trying to get to this law. This is the National Code of Conduct passed in 2014, and it requires all public officials here. See in part 10, if you all can see this, it requires that public officials coming into government and leaving government will have to declare their assets. Also, upon transfer from another office, take for example, Eugene Nagbe, who went from offices to offices. There's no evidence that he ever declared an asset after he will switch from one office to the other. As a matter of fact, almost all of them in the executive who may have declared asset once, never declare the asset again. The law provides that you declare your asset every 3 years, not if you stay in government. And if you're promoted or there's any progression, you're supposed to declare asset. If you transfer from one office to the other, you're supposed to declare your asset. And if you're retiring and on resignation, you're supposed to declare asset. So those are very important requirements, and that we need to make sure that people are able to do. So while they're going into office, they are supposed to declare the asset while they're going into office. I'm trying to get this thing also that it doesn't minimize us. Okay, stop sharing. So that is the important thing for the government. The president is supposed to declare his asset. All his officials coming to declare asset, and then all the officials who are going, are exiting, call that exit, exit declaration. All of them, including President Weah, his vice president, and his entire team are supposed to declare their asset. So that is another important thing that they need to make sure that they do. Another thing again, when we were talking about audit, that is also very important while talking about audit. The national legislature, we call it a national legislature. I've not been audited for almost 12, almost 18 years. How can we have an entity of government spending, utilizing, expending a huge amount of government revenue for almost 18 years, and there's no evidence of audit at any level in the legislature? How can we have something, even the judiciary as well? Executive branch institutions are being audited. That's the one that have been audited. But the legislature and the judiciary, they need to be audited. And then it's something I would expect that this government will also insist on and can actually drive a change in this direction. Make sure that the legislature and the judiciary are audited.
Okay, and Councilor Volley, I wanted to add also, and maybe we should leave that for the Boakai team to get, because one of the excuses that I think from Ellen's time, you will know better from the LACC, or why they were not having officials reconcile their assets beginning and starting, was because there was not an ombudsman. So how can we ensure that the law is enforced, that the president actually appoints somebody to oversee this process of accountability in the code of conduct?
But those provisions can easily be provided for if the legislature or the leaders in the country are willing to let it work. The issue of the ombudsman was something just created by the legislature to avoid, people doing verification of assets. They were trying to avoid LACC from actually, doing the verification. So we finally got over that. When we got over that, finally for President Sali to sign a memo, a memorandum of understanding how we're going to execute it. It was like in her last 30 days. So they just stalled a lot of things. I know I met with President Weah and his cabinet and told them we were commencing the verification process, and we were going to begin with President Weah asset. The designated from Natikofa to represent him, and they were not pleased with the fact that I pointed out to the president that his asset would be the first asset that we were going to declare. So what it did, it was just start the process because we were not willing to cooperate. And since we're running, into our tenure was expiring in February. They make sure they frustrated until my tenure expired and that.
So you are saying that the code of conduct can be enforced without the appointment of an ombudsman, right? That the LACC can do that.
The LACC can do that. The LACC actually lay out a whole format on how the verification asset was going to be done, and was finally signed by the president. It took almost 3 months for the president to sign that thing. It was finally signed by the president, and then the European Union was willing at the time, like way back in 2018, 2019, to give the LSPC and the government of Liberia about $5 million if we could verify 30% of the asset declaration. That was an incentive for us to do that, incentive for government, to do that. So once that money was announced by the European Union, then the Weah administration got interested in asset declaration, in asset verification. But then when we started listing the process and what we're going to do, they seem not to be interested in it, so they just kind of slow the process and say, look, let's just slow it enough for it and continue to be over. And basically, that's what they did. They just restricted the process until February 26th when I have to turn over.
And that has not been taken up again by the people after you.
As a matter of fact, have you heard about any one person being investigated for corruption and prosecuted for corruption since the Weah administration took over? I mean, and that's a question for all of us. I've not heard of anybody be taken to court for corruption since the Weah administration. So everything I really don't know what the LCP has been doing for the past 5 or 6 years since we left. Since I left in February 26, 2019, I don't know what the LCC has done. There's nothing published. You know, so I really don't know whether there were investigation. I'm sure there might be investigation, but were there prosecution? Were anybody charged? What are the reports from the LCC? You know, I think the LCC got involved in this wedge of retainership and the new law, and then they retaining that position. So I don't know what happened at the LCC, I'm of the strong opinion that is exactly what the government, the Weah administration, wanted the LCC to do, to be there, ineffective, dormant, you know, and not doing anything.
Okay, Alfonso?
Yeah, I think the issue of corruption and accountability cannot be compromised any longer in Liberia. And the incoming administration has a responsibility to do so. But they're also on record, basically. Ambassador Boakai is on record saying that he will definitely go after corruption, that he will investigate and prosecute people. So we have to hold his feet to the fire. Yes, I just want to quote some of the things he said, and that might also speak to what McNeil White was referring to. Um, okay, he said this cancer, quote, this cancer is eating up what he said. Liberians, one of the primary objectives of my administration, um, this cancer is eating up the country and it must be faced with utmost brutality. Our staff forms and ill-gotten properties from officials of government. So he did say that. So and I'm putting together a team of people, you know, professionals to do some of these things. At least Boakai has promised that he will do that around the issue of corruption. So as as civil society organizations, we have to step up and make sure hold his feet to the fire and make sure that he does those things that he promised to do regarding corruption. Again, the issue of investigating and prosecuting corruption cannot be compromised. I don't even see a conflict between accountability, auditing people, and holding people accountable, and reconciliation and
Peace.
peace. I don't see any conflict because the only way to really attain true reconciliation and peace is to do those things. Make sure that people are doing the right things, to make sure that people who stole from other people return those properties, return those things that they stole from people. I mean, reconciliation, the simplest terms is, you know, repentance plus forgiveness. So if you take something from somebody, you must repent, and the way to repent is to return that thing, and then the person forgives you for returning the thing or for repenting. You can't be adamant and say, "I would not. I just took your pair of shoes from you. I would not give it to you, but let's just reconcile." How is that reconciliation? So again, I don't see a conflict between auditing and reconciliation. I think Liberia really needs reconciliation, and the way to reconcile Liberia and the Liberian people is to hold people accountable who stole from the Liberian people and impoverish them, who stole from the Liberian people and thereby caused the death of pregnant women. Corruption kills people. If there's no clinic in somebody's community because somebody pocketed the money and the pregnant woman gets sick and die as a consequence, you killed that woman. So this is not something that I think that incoming administration should play with at all. Because if they do it, they would do it to their own detriment. I mean, the Liberian people have sent a strong message to our leaders through Mr. Weir. If you come in power and you don't do what we ask you to do, we will remove you and we'll go after you. Again, I'll go quickly to the Gallup poll. The Gallup pointed out two key things that were going to lead to George Weah losing the elections. Corruption was number one. Corruption and security were the two key things that the Gallup poll found out from the Liberian people. So if Mr. Boakai comes into power and he doesn't tackle corruption and he doesn't address it, I'm afraid the Liberian people will go after him as well. And so I think he has no way out, and we all should fight to make sure that that happens.
Same we have lost, same way, Marco.
I'm here.
Well, all may have heard that there was a coup attempt in Sierra Leone today. I don't know whether it has been a foul they declared dusk to dawn, 24-hour curfew. So we'll be following up to that. I think the government is still in place, but the issue of coup just after the elections sends a chill in the sub-region.
That's a serious concern.
Yeah, and I think honestly, in as yeah, in as much as we say a lot of things about Liberia, but I do want to give credit to Mr. Weah for handing over for conceding defeat and handing over power to President-elect Boakai. I think that says a lot about our people and the nature of our people, that we are at a place we don't want trouble. And of course, there'll be a few troublemakers amongst the group, like the Koji
that is
who's
it.
trying to run
That
around
is,
and do things.
yeah,
But
that is if Koji allow it to stand.
yeah, but I think Koji will be put in his place quickly, and I hope he is quickly put in his place. Uh, but it says a lot, and I am very proud of President Weah for what he did, and I do hope that this trend continues for Liberia. In as much as we may have our differences, and everybody may have their opinions on what should be right or what is wrong, but we shouldn't make decisions that will lead our country down that route again. Yeah.
I have a mixed feeling about that whole thing about we are conceding. It's the right thing to do. It's the law. I think he had no choice, and then another choice other than that would have led to chaos. And invariably, he also would have been a victim of that, But if it's yeah, it's good. I just don't subscribe to the thing that people say. Oh, in Africa, it's hard for people to turn over. I mean, those are conduct against the law. The people don't have to turn over. What he did was to make sure he followed the law. Was it good? Yes, it was good. We commend him. Where in some way, I would say, I think he finally showed leadership in his exit. That kind of leadership should have happened a long time during his 6 years of president. He didn't do that. So maybe as a way of repenting and regretting and telling Liberian people, I'm sorry, maybe he just conceded already, but he had no choice. The path to victory was clear. The one-time president was decided, so he did the right thing. I would just say that. Uh, but transition can really be a serious issue. Right now, where we go as a country will depend on what this new government does, how it approaches, the different issues and how they tackle it. Cyrus, I think you just need to put to rest the whole issue about Jefferson Koji. That is a non-issue if Jefferson is not acting on behalf of CDC. He can't be acting as an individual. He does that. The law requires what individuals are supposed to do. if they are disenchanted and disagree with election results. He has not done that. So by just rallying people at CDC headquarters to say they don't believe in the election is not enough. The issue of election, once you dispute election results, there are tangible evidence you're supposed to produce. Tangible evidence. Besides you having the evidence, is not even enough. Holding evidence in your hand is not enough. You have to initiate a process to hear your grievances. It has to be submitted to the election commission. The election commission will investigate it and take a decision. It will definitely end up to the Supreme Court. So the issue there is just the issue of lawlessness. And I think that should be dealt with decisively and let it be put so he can go back on his tracks. But I don't think that's a serious issue, except in the CDC that is challenging the results.
I mean, I like your optimism, and I hope the Liberia government can have the appropriate legal institutions deal with what is appearing to be an insurrection. Because guess what? If you listen to President Weir's concession statement, he did mention that if I were to listen to some people, everybody will be packing their bags to go to a refugee camp. So it would appear to me that even before he made his concession statement, there probably was a critical mass of people around him who were opposed to him doing that. If after the period as required by the Elections Commission for people to come out and contest has lapsed, if there are no evidence being brought forward, but we are still seeing and hearing case of Chairperson Koji and a number of people who are officials of the party still making public pronouncements that the elections were rigged and they will oppose it. I think it's cause for caution. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm just saying there are procedures and they need to follow the procedure. If they follow the procedure, we're going to listen to them. We should listen to them. But the procedure is not for Jefferson Koji to rally people at CDC headquarters and start protesting. What are protesting? There is a procedure. If you have those grievances, you do that. So yeah, I think it's something to look at, and I think this is also a time for we as the outgoing president who wants to preside over a smooth transitional and safe process to also make sure that he can keep his people in their zone, or else, you don't last the law and make sure you put people in their places. People have to be safe. They gotta feel safe. We can't encourage people, taking the law onto themselves, doing what they're not supposed to do. The government has to take some decisive approaches to this kind of thing. And use the law. There are laws governing all those conduct, all of the laws. So we gotta stop. Being patronizing the people and just make sure that we follow the law. The laws are on the book. Liberia has very good laws, whether criminal or civil. And we have very good policies too to regulate institutions and other things. We just need to be able to follow it. Because we have demonstrated a lot that he's not capable of following the law. As president, so he declared his asset once out of pressure. He should have declared his asset in January. He never declared his asset until July, almost end of July in 2019. I mean, in 2018. So and after that, there's no evidence that he ever declared asset again. So declare his asset every 3 years. As president, so he should declare his asset before. And now that he's leaving office, he is supposed to declare his asset again and encourage his official and let his official know that he's supposed to declare their asset while they're leaving office. Those are all requirements. It's difficult because many times when people are leaving government, after they declare asset, especially the manner in which they're leaving, it's hard to go after. But some people leave the offices and they go to different countries. They leave the country. It's tough. So normally we allow them to declare the asset before the day of departure. So and know that there'll be subject to investigation that they've done. So we are during the years of his presidency also said in his own words that he's not able to compare his minister. And that's one of the most defeating statements that he made back in 2018. That he's not able to declare, or compare his officer to declare their asset. How can the president say that when you exercise control and you lead the executive branch of government and you said to us that you can't make your officials declare their asset? That was so defeating. And now you come and say the incoming government should not audit your official. We want to keep the peace. I mean, what nonsense is that? And then we say thank you for doing this and thank you for doing that. The thing that he's done by conceding was the right thing to do. You know, as a man who lost the election, he should have conceded the election. That's what he did in a timely manner. We thank him for that. But that's not going to stop the process of accountability, you know, the process of answering to what he did in office. He should. And nothing about peace should stop a government from going back and to investigate the real administration. As a matter of fact, I think that is going to keep the peace. Because the more we allow people to come to public office and steal and just go and let public money end up in their pocket and they leave, we are creating ground for more chaos in our country. You know, so we need to make sure we can stop it and let people be held responsible. Our system of justice is adversarial. You are accused or you are deemed innocent until you are proven guilty. So there's no, if you're innocent, you didn't commit a crime, why should you be afraid? You should be afraid. You know? Because you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. You know, so that thing should happen. Investigation should happen and charges should be leveled against people. That issue of the $16 billion that came on that 4075. Then the $25 million back up SSI. And the reports of 7 other money places people being killed. I mean, how can we in our right mind say that I think this is good? This is are we civil? Are we returning to normalcy? Do you really think so? That's why Dr. Sidney talking about. There are a lot of people who are traumatized in our country. Because people abuse them, people victimize them, and they still walk in the street and nothing can be done. We need a lot of trauma healing. We need all of those things.
The man said if you ask question, I will be grumble.
but you see, Councillor Vada is striking the point. Because what we have done to our nation state is that we have reduced the bar so low to the extent that when somebody does the right thing, we say, oh, we want to appreciate the person for doing the right thing. As parents here, all of us here as parents, it is the right thing to take care of your children.
Yeah.
You don't go around and be announcing that I paid Jumbo school fee yesterday. You go announcing it. It becomes a good thing to appreciate. Yeah, we appreciate you, Mr. President, for announcing, for conceding the results, and for not listening to your people to attempt to cheat. I told somebody this, and I mean, me being a psychotherapist, unfortunately, my profession is I'm paid to disrupt negative behavior. I told people the other day here that if Mr. Weir had not done the right thing, he was going to end up like Samuel Doe on September 10th, 1990. To whatever means. We're now hearing of Sarah saying that there was it's reported that there was an attempted coup d'etat in Sierra Leone. For whatever reason, we don't know. Mr. Weir did what constitutionally he needed to do, to concede. If he was defeated, and he was defeated, he conceded. So my point is that this government that is now in power has at least 60 days or whatever number of days before Mr. Boakai comes to power. This government needs to understand that they cannot have renegades running all around here like Jefferson Koji. But again, if you give 25%, 20 to 25% of our country to a kid who has never ever worked as a store boy in a store to manage, 20 to 25% is because Monrovia's population is 1.3, the national population is around about 5.4 million. And of that 25%, 20-25%, more than 80% of the smartest people or the people who manage the state live within the confines of the of the city of Monrovia and Ibarra. If you give it to a child to run it, what do you expect that child to become? The child thinks that he can now sit down with kings and queens to break bread. That doesn't mean that because he's younger, he cannot have responsibility, but it just means that this is an ill-prepared young man who goes around disrespecting even his authority because he comes from an authority. And, and psychologically, these boys are running out of. They've been dismissed by the Liberian people. So that's why I said, in grief and loss, there are different stages. Some people can still on in one stage more than the other place.
The first thing is deniability and anger. Oh man, that boy is still in his denial stage. He's still in his angry stage. So he will verbalize a lot of things. And I always tell people when people are in those kind of stages, stay away from them because Councillor Verder then will go to court and plead, if they're defense counsels, and plead that my client was temporarily insane because that's insanity. You understand the situation? But Mr. Weir is under the obligation as president of Liberia now to stop people from making renegade statements like that, especially people from his political party. He is the president. Mr. Boakai is not the president. Weir is the president. And if he says, "Oh, we keep the peace," that had functioned anyways. When we elected him in 2017, that was one of the things we told him: keep the peace. He's not doing anybody a favor. So he should not be boasting around that, "Oh, I kept the peace." Yes, you were hired to keep the peace. And the Liberian people thought, besides keeping the peace and the accountability and all of the things you put on your plate,
we pay you to keep
pay you heavily for it. You did not meet up with our requirement. If you kept the peace, yeah, we agree the peace was already kept. But there were other things we asked you to do too. You didn't do those other things, so we are asking you that you're dismissed today. Marco is here, Saros is here, Alfonso is here, Councillor Verde is here. All of you guys have worked for people before. And if you're not working for people, you're working for somebody, and that person is yourself. If you don't meet the requirement to do that work, you step out. You step aside. The Liberian people told you didn't meet the requirement to stay there for another 6 years. That notwithstanding, the contract we signed with you ends on January, whatever the date is, 2024. So until that day, until your successor takes the oath of office, you will stay in power. Let him try to check his break, man. Let people start apologizing on his behalf because somebody is being a renegade in his backyard and he's not stopping in and say, "Oh, Joria is a good man." No. The CDC is a cultist movement. And in cult movement, they listen to their leader. I can put my neck on chopping board that somehow, somewhat, and thanks to the very judge that said that, "Oh, if I listen to my people, some people come and run away from here and other things." So these conversations were heard in his hearing.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop it. Then he said he's president of the Republic of Liberia until January 2024. Then we sit down here, we'll be joking, we'll be clapping for him. They're not AC Milan time, man. They're not IE time either. The Republic of Liberia. So let Opon be Opon for IE, the time I used to be a cheerleader, or AC Milan, Joia, or Paris Saint-Germain. But he is president of the Republic.
Right. There you have it, gentlemen. Alfonso, I think we've exhausted.
So if I may come in, so I was talking. Yeah. Okay. No, I was going to say I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a law firm. So he came and he was saying, "Oh, his secretary wanted his secretary asked him for extra pay, like what bonus." So he said he asked the secretary, "Why should I give you bonus?" She said, "I come in this office and I do my job and I finish it every day on time. All the job you assign to me, I do it. So the year ends, at least I should get a bonus." He said, "No, explain again. Why you think you deserve a bonus?" She said, "I do all my job. Everything I assign, I do it." He said, "But isn't that what you hear? Isn't that what I'm paying you to do? Why would that require extra money? You do your job. That is the job. That is to say that, hey, Mr. Weir, you did your job." By conceding the defeat. We don't owe you anything. We're not going to put you on a pedestal for doing the thing we pay you to do. That's probably it. That's it. And in his sermon today, I believe it's today in his church. I listened to part of it, and he said he wasn't going to be. He said people calling, but what happened? What happened? What happened? 50 people. 50 people, you open that door. 50 of you gather and try to go through that door together. People actually got up, they opened the church, to go to and say, you see, it's difficult for 50 people to go through the door at the same time. So that's what happened. We were divided among ourselves. And then people calling me to do this and do that. Me and my children are not going to be the sacrificial lamb. Don't mean to stand and do something so we can be the sacrificial lamb. So I'm saying this to say that he also knew that had he come and say, I'm not moving, I will stay as president, I'll go and try to rig the process, he knew there would be a reaction from the Liberian people, and hence his comment about he and his children and family being sacrificial. So I think there are a lot of factors at play that made him to decide to concede and concede early. He saw the pressure in the country from the Liberian people. He saw the pressure from the international community. He knew people were not going to stand for that. So he did what he was required to do, partially because he didn't want him and his kids and his family to be the sacrificial lamb, as he himself said today. Um, but I think yes, yeah. So yes, well, not unfortunate. I saw some videos and footage from Sierra Leone. It's really sad, what's going on there. But that's what happens when you steal from people, when you steal resources, corruption, and all of those things also lead people to get in the streets and to do things. So we need to go after those people. I know you were saying, Conservator, that we hit the time, so I'll stop here. And thank you all guys for the conversation. I think it was great.
Before we run out, let me just throw this thing out quick about the rehabilitation of the Liberian state. We fought a civil war that killed between 8 to 10% of its population. 8%, if you look at the number 250,000, 9% if you look at the number 300,000, 10% if you look at the number 350,000, at the Liberian population at the time that was estimated at 3.5 million. Unfortunately, though, the international community and everybody that was associated with Liberia only put in money and efforts for the rehabilitation of the villain, not the victims. We put in money to rehabilitate 103,000 of the ex-combatants, at least those who laid down their guns. We left the overall 3.5, the number has now gone to 5.4 million people non-rehabilitated, no treatment, nothing of the kind. Some of these people, besides losing their relatives, they had to live in internally displaced camps and centers for protracted period of time. Some of them, even though we don't have displaced camps, are in Monrovia when they should be in the villages, but because of the situations, they cannot go back there. Some of them went across the whole West African sub-region. Even us who find ourselves in the United States and other places, we are going through some situations that we want to be back home, right? You in your 50s, in your 60s, and with all the academic qualifications that we have, a lot of us don't want to be here, but we cannot go back home. One of the things that this government that is coming in will have to do is to do comprehensive rehabilitation of us as Liberians, because a lot of us, a very big chunk of us, have had to go through lots of trauma, poverty, war, then Ebola came in, and a lot of different things that have led to all of these trauma. And within trauma comes depression. Within depression, some of the guys are becoming psychotic now. That's why we call them crazy people in the streets. Then recently there is this mass epidemic of drug use by young people in Liberia. If this government that is coming in, because this other government did not do anything well, the previous government got the mental health law and acted. I think that was the end of it. And I think this government that is coming in must sit down with professionals. And I mean, fortunately, we have psychotherapists, we have psychologists, we have psychiatrists of Liberian descent in the diaspora that are willing to go back home. That government needs to understand that piece. If we don't rehabilitate our people, oh man, he will build a road in Bonjama, everybody be dancing. When the car passed 2-3 times, somebody would take his digger and go dig in the middle of the road because he said the car would kill his family and his children. So we need to do a lot of education. And the educational piece about, I mean, in addition to that, is not academic education. It's just short term. Because somebody who was maybe 9 years old in 1990 and did not go back to school, that 9 plus 32, that person is over 41 years old. Can that person go back and say that in third grade or fourth grade? So we need to also start giving them training that will make them to believe in the dignity of labor. I just want us to have these things as we go around to let them marinate in our psychology, that people cannot move forward, whether rule of law, whether the advocacy part, whether the oil and gas industry and other things. If the major resource, the human resource, is left unattended to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singway. I think you make the point. If there are no other parting comments, you guys, thanks a lot for again another delightful, insightful discussion about our country. So we get together again on next Sunday. You will have a good weekend. It's already almost 10 o'clock here in Liberia. So we look forward to continue peaceful transition in the hope that this time around we'll get it right. So thanks a lot and have a good Sunday, good week, new week.
Okay, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. I'm back home. I'm now on the road again.
Yeah, and I think I know we stay streaming. I think we should have a conversation before when we end the streaming.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Okay, when we end the section, we can stay on and have a short meeting if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So